During the Great Depression, millions of families face fuel shortages, unreliable stoves, and, strict rationing. Cooking was not just about preparing meals. It was really about stretching limited resources without wasting wood, coal, or time. Out of this pressure, an old technique returned to daily use across rural America and beyond: the ground oven. Borrowed from indigenous traditions and adapted by necessity, it allowed families to cook large amounts of food using minimal fuel while retaining heat for hours. Nearly a century later, the method remains one of the most efficient, low-tech cooking systems ever used. Why the ground oven mattered during the Depression. Traditional stoves required constant fuel. Wood had to be cut, hauled, and burned steadily. Coal cost money many families did not have. The ground oven solved both problems by concentrating heat and storing it in the earth. Once heated, the oven required no additional fuel to finish cooking. This efficiency made it invaluable during hard winters and lean summers alike. More importantly, it allowed families to cook staple foods in bulk, reducing daily fuel use and labour. How the Depression-era ground oven was constructed. The construction was straightforward and relied entirely on local materials. A pit was dug in well-drained soil, typically 2 to 3 feet deep and wide enough to hold cookware. Stones were placed along the bottom and sides to retain heat. These stones were selected carefully. Dense rocks like granite or basalt were preferred because they absorbed heat without cracking. A fire was built directly inside the pit and burned for several hours until the stones were fully heated. Once the fire burned down to embers, ashes were removed or spread evenly, depending on the food being prepared. Why earth was the key to its efficiency. Soil is an exceptional insulator. When heated slowly, it traps warmth and releases it gradually. By surrounding the cooking space on all sides, the ground oven created an environment similar to a modern slow cooker, but without metal or fuel input once sealed. This heat retention allowed food to cook evenly without scorching, even in cold weather. So, let's talk about how food was actually prepared and placed inside the ground oven. Typically, food was wrapped up to protect it from ash and soil. During the Depression, families would use whatever they had on hand: cloth, burlap, leaves, or even reused sacks. Cast-iron pots with tight lids were also quite common. Once the food was inside the pit, it was covered with hot stones or embers, and then everything was sealed over with soil. Now, the sealing process really mattered. A tight seal prevented heat loss and oxygen flow, ensuring the food cooked steadily rather than burning up. It was a crucial step, honestly. So, what foods were best suited to this method? Well, root vegetables, beans, stews, bread, and tough cuts of meat all thrived in ground ovens. These foods really benefited from that long, slow heat, which broke down fibres and brought out their flavour. Cornbread and dense loaves could bake evenly too, without being exposed to direct flame. This approach allowed families to turn inexpensive ingredients into filling meals, maximizing nutrition per unit of fuel. How timing replaced constant attention. Once sealed, the oven required no supervision. Food cooked for hours, sometimes overnight. This freed families to work, rest, or tend to other responsibilities. In a time when labour was precious, this mattered. Modern users can appreciate this aspect as well. The ground oven trades speed for certainty and efficiency. So, how can modern survivalists, apply this method today? Well, the same principles really still apply. Always choose safe stones that do not contain moisture, since wet stones can, crack unexpectedly. Make sure to heat them thoroughly before cooking. Wrap your food securely and seal the pit well, and, of course, allow adequate time for the process. In emergency situations or when living off-grid, this method actually provides reliable cooking without any visible flame, uses minimal fuel, and delivers a surprisingly high output. After the Depression, with cheap fuel and electric stoves becoming common, the need for ground ovens was reduced. Yet the technique never vanished entirely. It persisted in rural communities and among those who, truly valued self-reliance. Its survival, really speaks to its effectiveness. When systems fail, methods that rely on earth and physics, well, they endure. Why the ground oven still matters today. This method, honestly, represents more than just cooking. It reflects a mindset shaped by restraint, patience, and respect for resources. The Depression-era ground oven did not waste energy. It captured it, held it, and used it fully. For modern audiences facing rising energy costs and uncertainty, this knowledge remains relevant. If this exploration of historical self-reliance added value to your understanding of practical survival techniques, support Backyard Wisdom by subscribing, sharing this episode, and helping preserve proven methods that still work when convenience disappears.